West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est long, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
New tonight, on notice, Dominion Voting Systems sending letters to both White House counsel Pat Cipollone and President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to keep all records related to the baseless claims that their voting machines changed votes to help Joe Biden win. Why, may you ask? Because the company says that legal action against Giuliani is, quote, imminent. This, as a top executive with Dominion, is now suing the Trump campaign and allies, including Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. The lawsuit saying this, in part, defendants knowingly circulated and amplified a baseless conspiracy theory to challenge the integrity of the presidential election. While this theory has been thoroughly rejected, its immediate and life-threatening effects remain very real. Out front with me now, the man behind that lawsuit, Eric Coomer. He is Dominion's Director of Product Strategy and Security. Eric, thank you for coming on. First, I do need to say that there is no evidence that you or your company did anything to manipulate or steal any election. The Trump administration itself has actually said this was the most secure election in U.S. history. But for a month now, you have had to be in hiding. We are not revealing your location for security reasons. Can you describe what these conspiracy theories and disinformation surrounding you and your company have done to your life?
Thank you, Kate, and good evening. Thanks for having me on. To put it briefly, what I've experienced over the last 6 weeks has been a complete upheaval of my life. As you mentioned, I have been in hiding in a secure location. I have not been able to return to my normal life since all of these baseless accusations came out. I'm currently, for security reasons for both myself and my colleagues, I am currently on leave from my position, so I'm not working. I'm still employed with the company, but I am on leave due to the security concerns. So it has been, a complete upheaval of my day-to-day life.
And this is because, as I understand it, you've been receiving death threats daily, threats to your family, threats to your colleagues. And it all started really just days after the election. An activist out of Colorado accusing you and the company of being in some scheme to make sure that Trump wouldn't win. And I want to give you the opportunity and ask you for the record, Eric, have you been involved in changing any votes, deleting any votes, or impacting any votes, or even being on phone calls about doing so?
Never. I've never even joked about influencing an election. I've done this for 15 years. And I do it because I really believe in the democratic process. And it's not a joking matter. And even if I wanted to, there's no way for me to manipulate those votes. I don't have access to state and county election systems during an election. I've never written a single line of code that's used in Dominion's product. that's out in the field. And again, I have never made any statements, even joking to friends, families, or loved ones about influencing the election. And to be clear, I am in hiding because I have received many death threats, and it's on a continuing basis. My entire family, their private information has been published online in what's referred to as doxing. All of my private information has been released online. People have taken photos of my house. People have threatened to come by and lynch me, decapitate me. They've referred to me as a traitor. And it is not safe for me to, go about my daily life. And, even my father has received harassing letters to his home.
I do want to play for everyone just so they can grasp what you've been facing. Just a sampling of what people have been saying, what these conspiracy theories, how they have made it onto television.
The Coomer character, who is close to Antifa, he specifically says that they're going to fix this election.
Let me ask you about this guy, Eric Coomer. I think he works for Dominion. He said, supposedly, don't worry about Trump. I've already made sure he's going to lose the election. Is that true for starters? And yes. It's true. You have that.
It's true.
In Coomer's case, he was in a position of power to actually act upon his rage against Trump and Trump voters. What does he mean when he says, Trump won't win? I made effing sure of that. Nothing?
And so now, yesterday, you filed this lawsuit. You're suing a slew of them for defamation. What do you want to get out of this?
Well, ultimately and primarily, I want to set the record straight and try to reclaim my reputation. But secondarily, people need to be held accountable. Their statements, their baseless accusations have real consequences. I am not a public figure. I've never sought out any publicity or limelight or spotlight, and I have been thrust into this by these accusations. Yeah. And again, my safety and the safety of my family is at risk, and somebody needs to be held accountable for that. And the people that are in this filing should be held accountable.
It is Thursday, the 24th of December of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is on this Christmas Eve day, Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of Noël Bouche. Yes, indeed, it's one of those days because it's that time of year. Okay, am I going to do a Noël Bouche this year? No, I'm not. Are you kidding me? There's so much work involved in that. I'm going to take it easy this year. Though I must say, it is entirely wrong to go out of your normal habits, your normal routines during this time of COVID. I hate seeing all these guys with beards who never had beards before. Come on! Get some discipline in your life. Get up, take a shower, and shave. Well, brush your teeth too, but shave. My God. Throwing it all away and using the pandemic as an excuse. I'm not. No way. I always appreciated like the great white hunters who would go on safari, and they brought their whole estate from England with them on the safari, packed it up in trunks, and just traversed across the African continent looking for some big game, and they got their whole estate with them. And I appreciated that because, if you're going to sit down for cocktails at the end of a hard day trekking across the African continent, don't you want some, Persian rugs thrown out on the savannah? That's right. Well, we got that off our chest. Pardon me. And I mean that in all sincerity. Not that I've done anything wrong that would warrant a pardon. But if he's going to throw out pardons, well, how about pardoning me? Oh, that's right. He won't do that because I've been at absolute odds with everything that guy's been doing. Since really around the time that he and his dad got sued in the largest racial discrimination lawsuit in American history. Yeah, the whole conspicuous consumption, the whole just using women as objects. I mean, the idea of a trophy wife arose out of Donald Trump. And Ivana, he's got a trophy wife because she was a ski champion of sorts. I think it was more important that her dad was KGB, but no one really wanted to talk about that then. And they don't really talk about it too much now either. So I keep saying, the KGB, the FSB, they've had their tender hooks in this guy for a very long time. And we used to sit around the campfire when we, packed up our estates and took them to Yosemite. And we'd sit around at cocktail hour and we'd muse about what if Donald Trump was a Russian asset? I'm serious. We did actually contemplate that. Not with our estates. We traveled, I wouldn't say light. Just as an aside, it was normal to carry 60 to 80 pounds up in the mountains. At elevation even. We'd go to the Clark Range, and that's over 11,000 feet at the top of Mount Clark there at Lake Ostrander. And normally, 80 pounds. And then, whittle that down, of course, because I cheat. We try to live off the land as much as possible and as much as you're allowed. You can't just be foraging and digging stuff up there. But you can survive. There's tubers and whatnot. But I would cheat and I'd bring, a couple of pounds of rice and I would bring cans of beans. Because, you need the energy and whatnot and the starch. Energy and starch, wait a second, you need the protein and the starch. There you go. And that equals a whole protein, and then you got energy. Anyway, I would cheat doing that. And I'd bring a typewriter and some books. Yeah, I had this little Alvetti portable that I'd carry around when I was hitchhiking across America or when I was playing music with Cottonmouth. That thing went with me everywhere. And it went with me up in Yosemite, and I'd type away when we would. So in a way, we would bring our estates, except it wouldn't be like the whole, manse that you would find in the more pastoral areas of Great Britain. So, and we did muse about what if Donald Trump was a Russian asset? I mean, look, that was way back in the 80s. So anyway, here we are. The guy is going to destroy everything he can on the way out. He's punishing America for not voting him back in. That's why he, is going to pocket veto. I'm taking Rachel Maddow's analysis of this. He's just going to sit on that for 10 days down in Mar-a-Lago, and that will be a pocket veto. It'll just go away. And that's what he's expecting. And then Joe's group has to start the negotiations at zero. Now, of course, if you're somehow able to overcome all of the odds, and when I say odds, I mean the active sabotage of an election in Georgia, let alone what happened to Mitch McConnell. I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but I'm still wondering about Mitch's election. Numbers don't add up. Anyway, if we're able to overcome that, all the odds, taking away voting places now. As another aside, I said, don't trust that Republican Secretary of State in Georgia. He's not on our side. He's no great hero of democracy. Now he wants to get rid of no excuse absentee voting. I like the excuse of that. No excuse. Used to just be called absentee voting. Anyway, wants to get rid of that because apparently too many people were using it. And he had championed it as a safe way to vote during the pandemic. But I think the power's on high. And down in Georgia, I have it on some pretty good spec that it's the old boy network at work, as usual. And they got their tenterhooks into him. And the old boy network is pretty much a wash, I have to tell you, in Russian money. That Deripaska money isn't just in Kentucky. Trust me. And when I say Deripaska money, I just mean he's the guy that's doling it out because he's getting the okay to use it from Vlad because it's Vlad's money. About time you understood that too. So, Trump is going to just blow the whole thing up on the way out, and he may not come back from Mar-a-Lago. He's going to sit on the stimulus and omnibus bills. It'll be a pocket veto. Joe has to start from ground zero. From ground zero. Yeah, I guess that's one way of putting it, because that's where things blew up. And start over. All right. And we have some more stories on this Russian hack. You think it was worse yesterday? It's even worse today. I speculated that I sure hope that they've updated the password on the nuke football, because I'm pretty sure that got hacked too. You know, the infrastructure and the transition of power, all those codes and all the devices that the executive gets, you know, like to be able to blow up the world with a nuke device, becomes inactive on January 20th, and then Joe's becomes active. He'll get all that stuff the night before. So I was, what if it got hacked and Trump's doesn't deactivate? I'm taking up where LeCarry left off, and he's gone now. So I think that we need, yeah, right. As if there's not a slew of spy novelists out there already. Jeez. Okay, I guess I'll just stick to my dystopian universes of poetry, prose, prosody, and a ballad or two. Yeah, what's on the rest of the menu here on Christmas Eve Day? Yeah. You know, I was thinking it is a holiday, but I'm up early and it's quiet here, so we're going to have a show tomorrow. Okay, just because the show must go on, shouldn't it? And it doesn't really impact anything that early anyway. There's no patter of little feet about. Jeez, I can't wait for this pandemic to end, and it's not going to end soon. People are saying the summer? Yeah, maybe. I think we'll be wearing masks for quite a while because the mutations are going to be so severe. But that's another story for another day. On the rest of the menu here, well, that was at the top. That was a worker bee from Dominion. Yeah, the people that do the tabulating machines. I call them something a little bit more, but still. Anyway, Trump's conspiracies forced him into hiding, and his family and his mom and dad, and they're not young either. Now he's fighting back, and he's suing Rudy, the Kraken Lady, and actually the whole of the Trump campaign. Good for him, and looks like he's got some money behind him. That'll show, Rudy. On the rest of the menu, a federal judge in Arkansas blocked the state's drastic attacks on women's health for now, because there's always a poison pill in the way these repugs work. A coalition of Alaska Native tribes and environmentalists filed a suit challenging Trump's lifting of the roadless rule in the Tongass National Forest. And the US Cybersecurity Agency cryptically announced the Russian hackers behind the SolarWinds attack are impacting state and local governments. Impacting, in quotes, they said it. We'll find out what impacting is. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the United Nations Human Rights Office harshly criticized Trump's pardons of the 4 Blackwater war criminals, and that's what they are. They are war criminals. And Trump pardoned him because he's a crook. And a Turkish court convicted the former editor of the opposition newspaper on espionage and terrorism charges, because if you say anything bad about Erdogan, he'll make your life a living hell. Fortunately, this guy's in Germany. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. netrootsradio.com. Off to the rightish of the page, of course, is the chat room link, because I tell you that every time the show comes on. Anyway, the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, and thank you, Kelly. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. And if you would now take a gander to the leftish of the page, near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, there is that Patreon link. And if you could, after Christmas and the New Year's, I know it's tough right now, but when you're able and you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink and send those funds our way, we stretch those dollars so beyond compare. There's no physics that can describe it, but we're able to do it, and it's not 2 cans and a string. It's a little bit more involved than that. And we have you to thank for allowing us to do so. And once again, I have to give a big shout out to those who have upped their monthly contribution here to Netroots Radio during the holidays. Thank you. It comes at a precipitous time, as one would say, and I do. So thank you. We are about to make some major purchases. We've been making some smaller purchases in not anticipation, but as part of the whole larger purchase thing. Now, of course, everybody's going on holiday early. How dare they? Well, we have all of you to thank for allowing us to fulfill our civic duty here at Netroots Radio, which we do, all kidding aside, we do take quite seriously. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that and so much more. Thank you, Tom. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Festivus. Everybody gives the flying spaghetti monster, the pastafarians, everybody gives them short shrift. We should not. I'm going to tell you, they're going to be sticking to the ribs for generations to come. Mark my word. Anyway, happy holidays. I guess that'll just incorporate all of them. You can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes, of course, because where else do they use the term diary? In fact, they're trying to stop it, but I will not let them. And then I post that diary up by link on all the various social media platforms, Twitter being one of them. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West. Pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Sometimes I crack myself up, and for good reason. When I was a younger man, a young father, and I was putting in my stint with a major oil company in production and exploration, they left me alone for extended periods of time. In fact, they gave me a truck. When I started off, there were trucks that you would choose out of, the little fleet that they had, and you'd drive them up in the hills or sometimes out on the freeway for hours to get to other leases or drop off lab stuff, whatever, to other refineries and whatnot. But anyway, they gave me a truck. And when I started off, well, of course, I got to choose a truck out of the fleet. And I always chose the one without a radio. Because at the time I was playing music and doing poetry shows and, whatnot. And I would compose a lot during the hours-long drives out in Southern California. That's where this was. And they asked me, how come you always choose the vehicle without the radio? And I said, because I'm enough entertainment for myself. So we have fun here. That's right. And I'm enough entertainment for myself, maybe too much for everybody else. But hey, well, I guess that's why I had to move back to Oregon to take care of my elderly mom. At least that's what they told me I had to do. It's not that I have to. That's another thing in this season of giving. I hate the transactional aspect sometimes in gift giving. I like the idea, and I hold it close to my heart, the idea that it's not the gift, but the idea behind the gift. And of course, some people might say, well, it seems to me like the idea is pretty cheap. No, it doesn't matter what it is. So to care for my mom is not a transactional thing. And I have to say, I don't know very many people in my orbit, and that would include you out there as well, who would think that, well, this is my duty, or this is, I guess, a duty of sorts, but that almost adds a negativity to it. I like to call it unconditional. It's an unconditional love. It doesn't matter. It's your mom. It's your dad. It's your sister. It's your brother. I mean, maybe, possibly, we should be unconditional even with our neighbors. Though it's hard when they're trying to kill you. Not me, because I'm an old white guy. But, I mean, if I was black, I might feel that there's a target on my back, and my front, my side, and everywhere on me. All parts of me is a target. So, I prefer the unconditional parts of it. And unfortunately, in this materialistic society, can you tell that I have some sort of latent Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye thing about adult hypocrisy? And materialism is part of that construct. Just letting you know. Since we're so materialistic, the process of getting and receiving gifts by its nature is a transactional process. So I don't like that. I like to pretend that there's joy and harmony and peace on earth and goodwill to others. I mean, just for a little while, okay? Then we can get back to normal, and it's a dog-eat-dog world, and you better watch your back. It'll be fun at some point in our lives to not have to watch our backs. Wouldn't that be grand? Okay, we better dive into this. There I am diving in. We're going to tuck in. I got to stop this diving in. We're going to tuck into this little bit of metal repast. And it comes out of the American Independent by Lisa Needham. Yeah. On Tuesday, a federal judge in Arkansas blocked 4 anti-abortion laws only a few hours after they had taken effect. It's the latest ruling in a case that has stretched on for 3 years as the state seeks to impose drastic restrictions on the constitutional right to obtain an abortion. The ruling is likely only a temporary respite. Ultimately, this could end up in the United States Supreme Court, where there's a strong chance the 6-3 anti-abortion supermajority, oh, you mean the Christo-fascists, would approve of the state's efforts. In 2017, Arkansas passed several abortion restrictions. The 2 most notable are a ban on the most common second trimester abortion procedure. That's right. Another was a ban that forces doctors to interrogate patients about their health care decision, ultimately restricting abortions for reasons the state has deemed impermissible, like, I might die. I think I might die. Oh, well, that concern's not enough for us. The measures pushed by Arkansas are similar to those in states such as Mississippi and Tennessee. Why is it always below the Mason-Dixon line that they are the most virulent? Which recently passed laws forcing doctors to interrogate patients why they are seeking an abortion. But bans on common abortion procedure are also in effect in 3 other states. A federal judge of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Arkansas blocked the Arkansas laws 3 years ago, but then Chief Justice John Roberts gave anti-abortion advocates a gift: his concurrence in last term's abortion case, June Medical versus Russo. Roberts joined the majority in striking down Louisiana's law requiring that abortion providers have active admitting privileges at local hospitals because the Supreme Court has struck down a Texas law with the same provisions only 4 years previously. In doing so, however, he provided a laundry list of abortion restrictions he would still approve of. Further, Roberts only joined the majority opinion's holding, not the reasoning behind it. This led conservative courts such as the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers Arkansas, to immediately decide that Roberts' more restrictive separate holding is the controlling holding from June Medical. With that, the 8th Circuit overruled the lower court and said Arkansas's restrictions could take effect. See how that works? The case ended up back at the lower court after the ACLU filed an emergency motion asking the district court to issue a temporary restraining order stopping the restrictions. That request was partly because there were already patients set to receive the now banned dilation and evacuation procedure this week. U.S. District Judge Christine Baker agreed and reiterated her findings from 3 years ago, that the second-term abortion procedure was an unconstitutional, substantial, and undue burden. Further, she found that enforcing Arkansas's restrictions would also irreparably harm people seeking an abortion. So the laws will remain on hold until January 5th, when they will go into effect if the order is not extended. Well, that entire process highlights just how tenuous abortion access is in states like Arkansas. The restrictions were passed by the state, then blocked by the district court, then put into effect by the Supreme Court, then blocked by the district court again. Now people can obtain dilation and extraction abortion, and doctors do not have to question them about their motives in seeking an abortion, but only for about 2 weeks. After that, no one knows what will happen next, and people are left uncertain as to the status of abortion availability in the state. Next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays is Out of Reuters by Yereth Rosen. A coalition of Alaska Native tribes and environmentalists filed suit yesterday, Wednesday, challenging a new Trump administration policy that opens large swaths of the largest U.S. national forest to logging, mining, and other commercial development. Oh my. The lawsuit, joined by tourism and fishing organizations, seeks to reinstate prohibitions on road building through previously protected areas in the Tongass National Forest of southeastern Alaska, the world's largest temperate rainforest. See, Trump isn't just intent on destroying America, he wants to destroy the world. Man, this guy is like Luther. The Clinton-era rule, effectively banning timber harvest and mineral extraction in undeveloped areas of national forests across the country, was lifted for the Tongass in October, part of Trump's aim of easing various environmental regulations opposed by industry so they can exploit and destroy. It marked a victory for state officials who petitioned for the change because they said the roadless rule, closing off 9.2 million acres of the 17 million acre Tongass, had cost Alaskans jobs. But yesterday's lawsuit, filed in the U.S. District Court in Juneau, said the Trump policy imperiled indigenous tribal homelands and the ecosystem supporting Southeast Alaska's fishing and tourism industries while disregarding sound science. The lawsuit also said increased logging in the Tongass would undermine efforts to combat global warming because the forest is a significant natural repository for stored carbon. Oh, a carbon sink! U.S. Forest Service representatives were not immediately available for comment. The national roadless rule was imposed in 2001 in the last days of President Bill Clinton's administration. It was challenged by Alaska and, at times, other states seeking exemptions. The incoming Biden administration could reverse the Trump policy and accomplish the lawsuit's objectives, plaintiff's attorney Kate Glover said. Ralph Satter at Reuters brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The US Cybersecurity Agency said late yesterday, Wednesday, that a sprawling cyber espionage campaign made public earlier this month is affecting state and local governments, although it released few additional details. The hacking campaign, which used U.S. tech company SolarWinds as a springboard to penetrate federal government networks, was, quote, impacting enterprise networks across federal, state, and local governments, as well as critical infrastructure entities and other private sector organizations, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, affectionately known as CISA, said in a statement posted to its website. The CISA said last week that U.S. government agencies, critical infrastructure entities, and private groups were among those affected, but did not specifically mention state or local bodies. So far, only a handful of federal government agencies have officially confirmed having been affected, including the U.S. Treasury, the Commerce Department, and the Department of Energy. CISA did not identify the state or local agencies affected and did not immediately return an email seeking additional details on the notice. Reuters has previously reported that Pima County, Arizona, was among the victims of the wave of intrusions. The county did not immediately return a message seeking comment late Wednesday. The county's chief information officer previously told Reuters his team had taken its SolarWinds software offline immediately after the hack became public, and that investigators had not found any evidence of a further compromise. Senior officials and lawmakers have alleged that Russia is to blame for the hacking spree, a charge, of course, the Kremlin always denies. All right, that takes us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, Citizen Mank. It's a truism that Hollywood loves movies about itself. While not an Academy category yet, David Fincher's Mank would be a shoo-in nominee. Based on a script by Fincher's now-deceased father, Mank tells the story behind the legendary film Citizen Kane. However, Mank isn't about the film's luminary Orson Welles, whose career has been often dissected, but rather it's about the movie's writer Herman Mankiewicz, a.k.a. Mank. Laid up with a broken leg and losing a battle with alcoholism, Mank is a veteran hack who's been hired to write the screenplay for young upstart Welles' directorial debut. For reasons unknown, legendary publishing tycoon William Randolph Hearst was the inspiration for Charles Foster Kane. In the portrayal here, we not only learn why he did it, but the effect that Hearst, Willie to his friends, had, not just for Mank, but for the 1934 California governor's race in which the Democrats ran journalist Upton Sinclair, which upset the big Hollywood bosses, and Willie. Mank, played by Gary Oldman in a sure-to-be-nominated performance, is a man caught between ideals and a paycheck. The fact that the 62-year-old Oldman is playing a man who was in his early 40s may seem odd, but he actually does resemble the rum-soaked Mankiewicz. Another standout performance is Amanda Seyfried as Hearst's mistress, Marion Davies, who was given rough treatment in Citizen Kane as Susan, Kane's much younger second wife, whose singing career is aborted due to lack of talent. Seyfried's Davies, arguably the most sympathetic character in Mank, comes across as intelligent and sincerely in love with Hearst. Shot on film in black and white and mimicking the cinematography and editing style of the period, Mank is one not to miss. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60 Second Science. I'm Jason Goldman.
We literally get down on our hands and knees and start slowly sifting through the leaf litter, looking for bits of hair or a little chunk of bone.
Tom Gable is tracking a predator. In fact, he's tracking a whole pack of them.
Oh, it's very much like a crime scene investigation.
Since 2015, the University of Minnesota conservation biologist has used GPS collars to track 30 wolves inside Voyageurs National Park. Those collars led Gable and his team to kill sites. And there, amid the leaf litter, were bloodied bits of fur and bone, clues about how wolves alter the ecosystems they live and hunt and kill in. The long-term study is, in a way, a quest to broaden a science story that goes back 25 years. For wildlife ecologists, the story of the reintroduction of wolves to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem on January 12, 1995, has become canonical. The story goes something like this. As the elk grew to fear the wolves, they changed where and how they foraged. That gave willows, cottonwoods, and aspens a better chance to grow near streams. It also meant more riverside berries for foraging grizzly bears. And it led to alterations in the flow of those streams, sending water in new directions. Wolves outcompete coyotes for access to prey, so coyote populations plummeted, which led to a rise in fox, rabbit, and ground-nesting bird numbers, and so on. Ecologists call this row of biological dominoes a trophic cascade.
Regardless of your inclination, I think it's hard not to be like, wow, this is amazing, right? If that is true, that's really incredible.
New findings cast some doubt on the idea that wolves primarily regulate the greater Yellowstone ecosystem through fear and intimidation. And regardless of the situation there, very little research has been conducted on this question in ecosystems that don't resemble the mountains and grasslands of Yellowstone. Which brings us back to the boreal forests of northern Minnesota, and the ground that Tom Gable and his team have been crawling over the last few years. During the winter, wolves work together to kill large prey like deer. But Gable found that in warmer, ice-free months, wolves focus on smaller prey, like newborn deer fawns, and especially beavers. And that's where things get really interesting for the ecosystem.
Wolves, by preying on dispersing beavers, alter where wetlands are created.
If a young beaver gets killed after leaving home, it will never have a chance to build a new dam. Even if it had started construction before becoming a wolf's lunch, the dam will remain unfinished and fall into disrepair. Beavers are ecosystem engineers, so when a wolf kills one, it can have a big impact.
Because they prevent beavers from converting a forest into a wetland. And in that regard, wolves are then connected to all of the ecological processes that are associated with wetlands and beaver ponds.
Ecologists have long assumed that predators can influence their ecosystems in two main ways. One is through fear and intimidation, like in the Yellowstone story. The second is through direct killing. The Voyageurs wolves offer up a third possibility. The park and the forests surrounding it have more than 7,000 beaver ponds. Gable estimates that wolves have a direct impact each year on around 88 of them. That's a mere 1.25% affected. So it's hard to argue that wolves are responsible for reshaping the ecosystem in the broadest sense. But it's equally hard to deny that they help to maintain a diversity of habitats across the landscape.
But I don't really think that estimate is a key finding, so to speak, because I think the real goal or the real point of our paper was simply to flesh out this mechanism of how wolves do this.
The study was published in the November 13 issue of the journal Science Advances.
This is something worth studying, and this is likely happening in a variety of ecosystems.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Jason Goldman.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. When it snows this winter, make sure you clear more than your driveway. Before you hit the road and before you get in the driver's seat, check to be sure that your vehicle's tailpipe is clear of snow. If the tailpipe is blocked, carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless, and deadly gas produced by your engine can build up quickly inside your vehicle, poisoning anyone inside. To learn more, call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-232-4636.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? What, did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
I'm dreaming of a white, non-sectarian, non-denominational, non-government-sponsored late December holiday. Hey, honey, come quick. It's the ACLU Carolers.
I'm singer-songwriter Patty Larkin, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute with ACLU attorney Bill Newman.
'Tis the season, the silly season, the time of year when some claim that the ACLU is against Christmas because we and other groups that believe in religious freedom fight to maintain the First Amendment guarantee of a wall of separation between church and state. Separation of church and state means that religious symbols, including a creche, that's a structure depicting baby Jesus in the manger, can be displayed on private property, but that public property is reserved for all the people and not one specific religion. It is the First Amendment's Establishment Clause that prohibits the government from endorsing, favoring, supporting, or trying to establish a national religion. The other half of the guarantee of religious freedom in America is the First Amendment's Free Exercise Clause. The Free Exercise Clause guarantees the right to observe and celebrate Christmas and freely exercise religious beliefs and to sing or not sing. So may your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the American Civil Liberties Union, because freedom can't defend itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2008. That was the day that Walmart stores agreed to settle 63 wage and hour lawsuits across 42 states for at least $352 million and possibly as much as $640 million. Walmart and Sam's Clubs were accused of failing to pay overtime, requiring workers to work off the clock, erasing hours from time cards, and preventing workers from taking meal and rest breaks as guaranteed by state law. The lawsuits involved hundreds of thousands of then current and former employees. You'd think they would have learned their lesson after having to shell out that amount of money. In fact, they have had to settle at least 7 more class action wage and hour lawsuits and remain a defendant in dozens more. By 2012, Walmart had settled at least 9 Equal Employment Opportunity Commission cases related to disability, gender, racial and religious discrimination in hiring, and sexual harassment. Egregious labor violations have persisted throughout their stores. Systematic wage theft, health and safety dangers, and abusive conditions on the job have continued for years. Chronic short staffing creates unsafe working conditions. In 2012 alone, they were repeatedly cited and fined by OSHA for serious violations such as blocked emergency exits, lack of safety procedures for control of power hazards, and other problems. Employees who worked with our Walmart organizers often found they were targeted with threats, reduction in hours, and terminations. More recently, Walmart has had to settle a discrimination suit over health insurance benefits for same-sex spouses. The high cost of labor violations and the low wages at Walmart cost taxpayers on average $6.2 billion a year in public assistance for many of their workers.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays, Christmas Eve Day. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 25 degrees Fahrenheit. How dare you! Mostly cloudy today. Hopefully we'll get in high in the mid-40s. Winds will be light and variable. Overcast tonight. Lows in the low 30s, though it probably means the mid-20s again. Winds remaining light and variable. And then tomorrow on Christmas Day, it looks like we'll have showers early, becoming a steady rain later that morning. Winds will be out of the southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour, expecting about a third, actually 3/4 of an inch of rain, just updated, and expecting a high tomorrow in the mid to low 40s. Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Jackson County in the southern part of Oregon now stands at 5,469, and confirmed deceased has been reduced to 63, though both of those numbers, I have to say, still seem like gross undercounts. Pollen is rated at none here at the mothership at Rogue River proper. The air quality index in the region is good at 48 parts per million, though that's about ready to take into moderate. And the daytime UV index remains at its winter low of 1. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.26 inches. Visibility is down to a quarter mile, and relative humidity is at 88%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. And Gunner the English Bulldog continues his job of snoozing, because he's the snoozing sous chef, and that's his job. Okay, London, speaking of English, is 41 and mostly cloudy. Paris is 43 with a light rain. Rome is 60 and mostly cloudy. Kyiv is 33 with a light rain. Kabul is 37, continuing with its winter smoke from heating their domiciles. Hong Kong is 63 and fair. Tokyo is 45 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 70 and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 44 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York is 58 degrees Fahrenheit and mostly cloudy on Christmas Eve Day. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Anonymous worker bees at the Associated Press bring us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The United Nations Human Rights Office said that it is deeply concerned that Trump's pardons of 4 former government contractors convicted in a 2007 massacre in Baghdad that left more than a dozen Iraqi civilians dead. The 4 men's pardons were among 15 that were announced on Tuesday. Supporters of the former contractors at Blackwater Worldwide had lobbied for pardons, arguing that the men had been excessively punished in an investigation and prosecution they said was tainted by problems in which exculpatory evidence was withheld, and that is BS. This was a hard case to bring to court. They fought every inch of the way, and they were convicted with an overwhelming preponderance of evidence. This is a travesty. These men, these murderers, these war criminals were pardoned, and it is a stain upon the military and upon the rule of law in the United States of America.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Zainab Bignasoy and Dorothy Teesing of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, Christmas Eve Day. A Turkish court yesterday, Wednesday, convicted the former editor-in-chief of opposition newspaper Cumhuriyet on espionage and terror-related charges over a 2015 news story, a verdict the exiled journalist said exemplified the pressures on the Turkish media. The court in Istanbul found Can Dündar guilty of obtaining secret documents for espionage. You know, investigative journalists publishing their works, and knowingly and willingly aiding a terrorist organization without being a member, you know, reporting on the news of the day. It sentenced him to 27.5 years in prison. Dunbar fled to Germany in 2016, and he was tried in absentia. His lawyers said the proceedings did not adhere to the standards of a fair trial and judicial impartiality, and they did not attend the court hearing in protest. In an interview with the AP at his Berlin office, Dündar called the verdict a personal decision by the president of Turkey to deter the journalists writing against him. Reporters Without Borders ranked Turkey 145th out of 180 countries in its 2020 Press Freedom Index. Dündar said the trial verdict could have a further chilling effect. Indeed. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. And you know Netroots Radio will broadcast on come hell, high water, snow, the dark of night, or even holidays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here tomorrow on Christmas morning, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, dans mon Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.